Hello, everyone. Thank you for being on this morning. It's our first forum of 2024. We're so happy to have you, and what a great way to start the year with this speaker in particular. So welcome. If this is your first time on one of our forums, we're happy to have you. This is our network of owners, business leaders, and entrepreneurs. And our focus is our purpose, cause, and passion. So co-creating a space with committed leaders to integrate the kingdom of God into their businesses and lives. So we want this to be a way for everyone to come together, connect, also, learn something and grow in the community. So this one in particular is Noble Knowledge, but we do have others that we're working towards and we'll have going this year. So growth, leadership, and abundance. A little bit of housekeeping before I introduce our speaker. We just ask that you turn on your video if you can. We know some of you are driving, so just be safe. We're recording this session, so feel free to share with others and we'll have it posted and we'll show you where at the end of the call. Please turn off any and all distractions, and then we're going to stay together for today's call with Mike. So feel free to put, some questions in the chat box. I know he's going to kind of explain the flow and everything here in a moment. So our speaker today, we're so excited to introduce Mike Bowers. So Mike is a business advisor and director for the Ohio Small Business Development Center, also known as SBDC at Columbus State Community College, where he focuses on supporting prospective and existing entrepreneurs to start and grow businesses. Mike's worked with entrepreneurs and small business owners for over 30 years and has a diverse skill set with experience in banking, private equity, strategic planning, leadership, and public sector management. So we're so happy to have Mike, and it's a great and important topic for today, and we're happy to have everyone here. So Mike, I will pass it over to you to share your screen.
Great, thank you. All right, perfect. Let me get this launched here. All right, what do y'all see? We see in the notes part, or you see in the presentation?
No, we see the notes too.
How about now?
Yeah, there we go.
All right, perfect. All right, well, thank you for the opportunity to present today. This is a topic that is kind of near and dear to me because this is what I do on a daily basis. We're going to be doing an abbreviated version of our basis of a successful enterprise business startup training. And as Megan said, I'm with the Small Business Development Center at Columbus State Community College. I know that there's some folks that are in here that are not from Central Ohio or not currently in Central Ohio. For your information, for everybody's information, the Small Business Development Center is a national program. It is a program funded in part by the Small Business Administration, which is the SBA. And what we do is we provide small business advising services and training services. The advising services are always free, and the training services tend to be free to minimal costs. So regardless of what SBDC you are connected with, the advising services are always going to be free. So our Small Business Development Center is located in Central Ohio. You see the map there. There are 25 SBDCs in the state of Ohio, and there are close to 1,000 in the United States. So I wanted to talk about why small business is really important. So if you look at this board here, this is really what small business is all about. Small business is this creation of this slice of life. This is what creates the environments that we all want to live in. And if you think about it, oftentimes the small business that you may be going to, whether that's to buy your child's sports equipment or to get your groceries or a variety of different things, restaurants, whatever, when you support a small business, typically you're supporting your neighbor, you're supporting your friends, you're supporting people in your community that are looking to really grow something beyond just the business components of it. They're trying to create something that, again, is valuable to them and valuable to the community. And that's what I think is really, really important to think about. You know, the Intels, the Hondas, the Nationwides, all that stuff's really important to a community because it creates a massive amount of jobs for folks. But the what we see when we live on a daily basis is really created by small businesses. So what we're going to talk about today, I'm kind of doing a fire hose approach to throw a bunch of stuff at you about what we feel is really important in terms of creating a small business. I have a 3-hour version of this that I do on a monthly basis for the SBDC. And as a matter of fact, I did that last night. So my voice is a little scratchier than it normally is. But luckily, Jeff and Susie and Megan did make it clear to me that we had to be done by 3:30. So we will be complete easily by then. Now we'll be done here regular time a little bit later. So when we think about starting a business and the stuff that I want to talk about today, you know, I was thinking about this morning, and this isn't stuff that we just went and pulled out of a book. This isn't stuff that we went ahead and said, you know, here's the mechanics. We do this, you do this, you do this, you do that. There are certain things, obviously, that have to happen on a regular basis when you're starting a small business. But these are things that I've seen over my 20 years with the SBDC, over my 10 plus years prior to that, working with small businesses, our great team. Some of you who've been through the Noble Academy, you're familiar with Kevin Hammond, who is on our team that does part of the Noble Academy program. And the stuff that I want to kind of go through is stuff that obviously has been given to me. It's been experience that's been given to me, knowledge has been given to me. And I truly believe it's been given to me by the Lord to share with individuals that want to do this. And the information that we try to share as an SBDC really is to allow you to avoid a lot of these kind of mistakes that first-time entrepreneurs make that cost you time and money. So when I think about risk, and oftentimes people say small business is risky. Well, being a small business owner, there is a risk associated with that, but there's also a risk associated with going to work with a large corporation and sitting in a cubicle on a daily basis because you don't have that kind of control. When I think about risk in small business comes from not knowing what it is you're doing. And again, that's where information like this, information like the Noble Academy, things like that, the opportunities to sit down and have dialogues with experienced entrepreneurs like Chaz and Rob and Doug and Jeff to really be able to say, what is it that I don't know that I should know that's going to allow me to be more successful quicker? And that's where a lot of this comes from. The other thing that's really, really important when you're looking to start a small business is that it's not a 9 to 5 type of job. You know, it's not a 40-hour week. You know, it is a very large undertaking for you. It is more than just 8 hours a day. You know, you've got to be willing to put in the time, put in the effort. You know, it is not uncommon that you may wake up and everything's going great with your business. By the time you get out of the shower and you have a cup of coffee, there's an issue that you get to deal with, and you deal with that. And then maybe by noon or 1 o'clock, everything's cool again. And then by 3 or 4, something else is going down. So it is really important that you understand that you get to put in a lot of work here, but it can be really rewarding work, especially if it's something that you're passionate about that will allow you to accomplish the things that you're looking to accomplish. So I want to touch on 5 things that we feel you must do to start a business. As I said, there's a 3-hour version of this that you can access on our website. It's virtual. Anybody can come to it. Like I said, we did January's last night, but we'll do another one in February. So I'm going to go high level here. And then if you have questions or anything like that, we'll try to grab some questions later. But I would encourage you to, if you have some questions, you have some thoughts, you have some experiences, feel free to put it in the chat for everybody to see, to gain exposure to, and to get value from. And we have other experts, here we have Jeff and Chaz and Megan and a lot of people that understand the business process that may be able to jump in and actually answer your question right there in the chat. So don't hesitate to do that. So number 1, make sure your big idea can be a business. So the first thing that often will hit you is this kind of aha moment, right? This where you're sitting on the couch and all of a sudden it hits you. Should do this business. This would be huge. This is really what it is you want to do. This is what gets you started. So it's really important. But know that you've got to determine, can that big idea be turned into a business? In the time I've been doing this, I've seen a lot of people that get very fixated on their idea without really making any sort of determinations. Can I make money at this? Can I do what it is I want to try to accomplish with this? So it's really important at the very beginning parts of what you're doing to say, okay, here's my business. Let me do some kind of basic Google searches to kind of determine at a higher level, is there a real need for this product or service? I think a lot of people get focused on there is a need that I see. I would buy this product. I think it's super cool. My friends, my family think it's super cool. But is there a real need out there in the market? Is there a problem that your solution can solve? So this is where we want to start doing some preliminary kind of searches to determine that. You want to be able to try to get an idea of who's going to buy that, how much they might try to buy, and what it's going to take from you to get them to buy. The build it and they will come kind of philosophies don't tend to work. You've got to be able to take the reins and get this to happen. And then you get to also determine your competitive, is there competition out there? And I think a lot of people get focused on I don't want competition. Well, competition is actually not bad because competition helps you determine that there are people out there that'll buy it. There is some demand out there for what you're trying to do. It doesn't have to be exactly what you do, but if there's some other sort of competition out there, that helps you understand that. So at the very early stages, being able to take a step back from your big idea and go in here and say, is this capable of being a business, or is it a hobby? If it's a hobby, that's great. Just know that it's a hobby and you're going to go proceed accordingly. Next is to know your customers. This is really the market research stage. This is where you're going to gather, analyze, pull all the materials together you need to make a decision about your business. This is the research phase. Unfortunately, while this is, in my opinion, the most important phase, it is also the most skipped phase because it is a lot of work. Here's where we're going to be trying to find out who our customers are, really dive into what our market is, who's out there to buy what we do, different things like that. And I think a lot of people tend to skip this. And I have seen over the time that I've been doing this, a lot of people, I recall seeing an entrepreneur that was talking to somebody and they're saying, hey, I'm kind of at the early stages of my business. I want to do this. And, I'm trying to say to them, well, who's your customer? Who's your market? Where are they? And the other individuals were like, jumping beyond that to say, hey, try this, try that. Here's this technique, this technique. Well, if you don't know who your customers are, you can use all the techniques you want in the world. Now, if you are independently wealthy, you got a bunch of money, then cool. Go ahead and if you want to skip this phase and use your money and your time to try to figure it out on the fly, that's fine. But for most of us, we need to be more specific about our funds and what we're trying to do with them. So when we're thinking about market research, I want you to think about two specific areas. Number one is identifying the demographic. That is, who is your customer? So your first point here is that you're going to want to build your ideal customer profile or your customer persona, right? These are some of the areas that you're going to want to think about. So what is the ideal age range of my customer? What do you think the ideal gender of my customer is? Maybe the geographic location, where are they located? The education and occupation income range, are they going to be able to afford the product? Different things like that. Is your product geared at kids or parents that have kids? Then you need to understand the household type. This demographics is really critical. Building this ideal customer profile, you're going to build it, and then you're going to test it. And then ultimately, you will come out with who your customer is, and you will know who that is. And the great thing is, once you know that, then you can find them. You can use different sources. You can use census data, other data to actually locate them if you know who they are. Once you do know who they are, it's also important to understand the psychographics. The psychographics is why your demographic, your ideal customer profile would buy your product. So the psychographics is where you try to understand your audience, where you really try to understand what they need, what they want, what they depend on, what's important to your customer that will draw them to your product. So this is always tricky for folks because folks need to basically shift off of this idea of, I know best. I know that I would buy this. My wife would buy this. My mother would buy this. To take it beyond that, to really understand why others would do this. And what was always cool for me, we used to do this, our B.A.S.E program live, and I would ask people in the audience, I'm like, tell me about the psychographics of your audience. Tell me about your ideal customer. And once we got going and we got in a dialogue and other folks kind of jumped in and said, hey, you're doing this product, you're doing this business. That's cool. I think this is important. I think this is important. And a lot of times the entrepreneur had never even thought about that stuff. So the more you can have dialogue with your demographic audience to try to determine the psychographics, the better off you're going to be. And again, that can having conversations with people outside of your regular circle that are in your demographic, one-on-one, small group, even survey type of programs, which would allow you to gather information. Because what you want to do is you really want to determine why it is they're buying and want to buy your product. The one of the strongest tools that you can use is your local metropolitan library. So here in Columbus, we have the Columbus Metropolitan Library. They have a number of databases for research. They have all the census data, stuff that you and I can't afford to buy. They've bought it, and we can access that either by, in Columbus, going into the main office, main branch, and talking to their business librarians, or doing it online. And I know, again, there's folks that are outside of Ohio that may be here. And I'd encourage you, find your local metropolitan library that they probably have all these databases. So it's really important to kind of look and see where can you source this kind of information so that you can validate what it is you're trying to do. On our website, and you see a link at the bottom of this, I've shared a PDF with all these slides with Susie, and she'll be sharing this, I believe. On our website, there's a video where Kevin Hammond basically speaks to one of the business librarians at the Columbus Metropolitan Library about library resources for small business owners. So I encourage you to go check that out. It's, again, on our SBDC YouTube channel, and it gives you a lot of good information. So we have what? We have the demographics and we have the psychographics. And when we start to put this together and we create a customer profile, it can look something like this. So this is an example. So let's think about this. So let's say that our business would be women's fitness and nutrition coaching for Gen X and baby boomers. Okay. So what does the demographic of that audience look like? What does an ideal customer for this particular business possibly look like? So in this case, it's a female, aged 45 to 65. They tend to be married with children. In this particular case, they live in the Hilliard area, which is a suburb of Columbus, and they have a household income somewhere between 100K and 125K. So this is the demographic. This is who our ideal customer is. Now, I always like to say, let's say somebody who's 40 years old comes up and wants to participate in this. That's fine. They can do that. But this is the ideal. This is the ideal customer for what you're trying to look at. So we know the demographic in this particular case. So let's think about the psychographics. So through these dialogues and interviews and surveying, we've determined for our demographic that the psychographics, what these individuals are really concerned about is health and appearance. They want a healthy lifestyle, but they probably don't have a lot of time. I mean, you can look at the demographics. They're married with children, probably have a job. They enjoy going online in the evenings. In this particular case, they're fan of Pinterest. They tend to shop at outlet malls because they want value. Mm-hmm. And they don't like these big box fitness centers or gyms and things like that, which feeds right into the coaching model that we want to do. So by knowing these things, you can now create a marketing strategy that will allow you to build a message based on the psychographics and target it right at your demographic audience. And again, that is going to allow you to be more focused and more successful than just let me throw some stuff up against the wall and hope that it sticks, knowing that that's probably taking some money and wasting some resources that you may or may not have. So by taking this research step is important, you're going to be able to focus what it is you're doing and focus on your customer and not waste time and effort outside of that. Mm-hmm. The next step is to really think about a plan for your business. I really think that it's important for you to create a vision of what it is you're looking to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And I will be the first to admit, when I first started doing this years and years ago, I didn't care about the mission and vision component of it. I just cared about the money of it. And that's because I probably came from banking and venture backgrounds. But this vision of what your business is going to be allows you to say, this is where I'm going, and then create the plan and the strategy to get there. So when we start thinking about planning, this is where we're going to take all the information that we did in the last step, and we're going to start to pull it together into a plan that will allow us to understand, again, in this plan, who, what, when, where, why, how much of it all that we're going to need to do. So pulling together a plan allows you to have basically a roadmap of what it is and where it is you're going. Okay. Now, I feel that required parts of your plan, you need to understand the strategy. This is where you're starting to talk about the mission and the vision, the strategic goals of what you're looking to accomplish. This is the high level stuff. The next piece is, once you've done that, you're going to put together the tactics. This is the steps that you get to take to allow you to execute around that strategy. So this is where we're going to be talking about pricing and marketing, financing strategies, and all those types of things. Once you have the tactics down, you get to put together a timetable, a measurable, trackable schedule that will allow you to reach this. Too many people may get to the tactic phase, but they don't put any timelines on it. So if you don't put timelines on it, you're not able to hold yourself accountable. And remember, as a small business owner, you're not really working for somebody else. You're working for yourself. So you've got to put together something that will allow you to hold yourself accountable moving forward. And as you've done all of this, now you know what it is you get to do, you know when it is you get to do it, and you know how much of it you get to do. This is where then you can start to create the financial forecast that will allow you to say, this is what my sales gets to be. This is how much we're doing in month 1, month 2, month 3, how much spending and expenses are going to be associated with those levels of sales. And what is my cash flow that's going to allow me to actually drive this business forward? So a lot of people get intimidated by the financial forecast, but if you have done the other pieces, and if you have some decent templates, you can just start dropping stuff in there and it'll all make sense to you, even if you don't have a super strong financial background. When we're thinking about planning, very similar to what we've been doing through the process, there's a number of questions that you should think about. And again, it's simple. What are you selling? Who's out there to buy it? What are you going to charge? How much, how will you get paid? Different things of that nature. That's really, really important. And I think a lot of times, without being strategic about what you're doing, a lot of folks get really focused in on, hey, this is my idea. I think that we're going to create all of this, but they don't have the roadmap to do it. So that's where the plan comes in, allowing you to accomplish these things. And notice, now I may say something through here, but I don't tend to focus in on a term called business plan at this phase, because too many people get intimidated by the business plan, or they think that I'll go to the SBA website and download a template and just start answering the questions. Well, you can't answer the questions properly unless you've done all the pre-work for that. And you want to create something that works for you. So if you're going to go to a bank, cool, there's a bank template, but you already have all the information. You're going to go to a supplier and they need to see your plan, cool. We take their template and we take all this information we have and put it in there. But you got to have the piece for you so that you, as the owner, can drive your business forward. Understanding business funding. I took this picture. This was laying on Susie's desk. You know, she's independently wealthy, so she had all the stuff was laying there. But seriously, you got to understand at least some thoughts around funding your business. Because again, I've seen a lot of people that have gotten to this phase, they do a plan, but they don't, they don't understand what they're doing about the funding. So you need to, one, you've got to be really realistic about how you're going to fund this business, right? So you need to think about, okay, how much do I need? And that's the next step. How much money do you need? Where's it going to come from? What's it going to be used for? You want to create basically a bank term here, a source and use of funds statement. So the use of funds, what am I going to, use the funds for? And where's it going to come from? Okay. And then in the source of funds area, this is where you need to understand that the primary source of startup capital for you to run your business is going to come from you. It's your money. You get the opportunity to create the equity in your business, whether that's I've saved money up or I'm going to do this part-time, and take money from a full-time gig and put this in, or whatever that means. I'm going to get money from friends and family to put into that. You're going to create that first level of funds coming into your business so that you have the equity in your business to basically show that you have thought through this and that you have some funds to move forward. Now, you may need additional funds. So now we're thinking about, okay, maybe I need to go to a bank and talk to them about a loan. Okay, well, it's really important that when you go to a bank to talk about a loan, that you are understanding that typically banks are going to lend money for stuff. Okay. They're lending money for equipment. They're lending money for inventory, different things of that nature. They're not typically lending money for kind of soft stuff like marketing, like website, like hiring people, and certainly not so that you can maintain your standard of living while you're shifting from being an employee to an employer. So that's where, again, that equity component that you build up goes to fund. And then lastly, I want to mention, some people think, well, I just go to investors. Well, if your business doesn't fit this model of investors, it's not going to probably work. And the thing that's really important, two things that's important to think about when you're thinking about investors. Number one, if you take somebody else's money, you have a partner. I don't care if they say I'm a silent partner. They may be silent, but they're only going to be silent as long as things are going good. So if you run into some challenges, things don't move as fast as you think, or you may be doing great and maybe they've got some issues. Maybe they're getting divorced. Maybe they've got some illness. They got something else going on that's going to cause them to put some more pressure on you. So know that. And the other thing is, if you're going to go to investors, your business has got to be able to generate a ton of revenue and a ton of return, because investors typically, especially individual investors, are taking their own money to put into your business. So they can't give you a bank rate of return or, interest rate. They can't say, okay, well, I'll do this at 6%. They're going to want 15, 20, 30%, or something like that, depending on the risk associated with it. So it is important that you think about that. And I will tell you, the next slide may be the most important slide on here, especially to someone like myself who deals with entrepreneurs and startup businesses. For starting your business, let's forget about these grants. Okay. For 30 years, I've fought against folks coming in. Hey, I'll just go ahead and get these small business grants that I see on the late night infomercials and things of that nature. For starting your business, for creating the infrastructure of your business, grants are not an option. If you are a for-profit business, do not expect to be able to get grants into your business for startup purposes. Okay. Now, there may be folks on here that are nonprofits. Cool. You may be able to get a grant, but you're not going to get it to build the infrastructure of your business. You still get to do that, just like everybody else gets to do that. Okay. Grants are designed to allow you to do things that can't be done in the private sector. Mm-hmm. So, as a small business development center, I get grants because the government has determined that our ability to assist entrepreneurs and not charge them is valuable and important. Well, I have 8 people that work for me. And if I'm not charging anybody and I'm not getting a grant, I don't have any money to pay them. So I would very quickly go from 8 people to probably no people. So that's what the purpose of a grant is. So just be advised of that as you're building out your business, because I don't want you to get distracted. Okay. Next step is we want to talk about understanding kind of business setup. This is where we talk about legal structure, different things of that nature. Now, I usually take over an hour talking about this when I do my other sessions, and I'm not going to take an hour tonight, but I will point out that these are what I would classify as the primary sources of legal structure. So the first 2, sole proprietors and general partnerships, basically the owner is the business. Okay. So I'm the business is me. I'm responsible for everything. There's no separation between me and my personal and the business. So if the business were to get sued, they're suing the business, and guess what? The business is me. So all my personal assets are a part of this. Okay. That's, I think, the most important thing to think about as a sole prop or a general partnership. The general partnership is basically 2 or more people. Now, the cool thing about these 2 things, it's a little easier. It's pretty quick to put together, but there are some legal risk associated with that. The next 3, C corporation, an LLC, or an S corporation. Basically, what we're doing here now is that we are creating a separate legal entity. So whereas before I was the business, now there's a separate legal entity in the business of which I am an owner. Okay. That is what allows you to have this limited liability protection of your personal assets. Now, just because you have limited liability for your personal assets doesn't mean that you don't need business insurance and other things like that. And I get a lot of people that have historically told me that the reason you get business insurance is not to protect against your personal assets getting taken. It's protect against your business assets being attacked through a lawsuit or something else like that. So it's important to understand this issue of separate legal entity that's created here. C corporations, are what we classify as traditional type of business. LLCs, a lot of people want to be LLCs, and that's great. In Ohio, you get to go to Secretary of State's office to kind of work through that. Outside of Ohio, I'm not sure how they do it. And then an S corporation is actually a designation that allows you to be taxed as a corporation, even if you're an LLC. And then a charitable nonprofit, if you're thinking about being a nonprofit, or if you are a nonprofit, typically you're going to want to be at 501c3. That is the charitable nonprofit designation. There, I believe, somewhere around 20 different types of nonprofits. This is the only one that allows you to have tax exempt status for your business and tax exempt status for the donations that you get. On our website, we have a business startup model. You can go and access this free of charge, and I would encourage you to go to Module 6. Module 6, which is about 25 minutes long, will basically work you through everything from legal structure to sales taxes to, paying any of these types of bills. Okay. So I'd encourage you to do that. That is available to you on our website, no charge. I would just encourage you to go check that out. There is the link to get you there. A couple things to think about. Legal structure terms. Number one is the EIN number. This is the employer identification number. This often becomes the federal tax ID number for the business. This basically becomes the social security number for the business, right? Know that this is a free service offered by the IRS. You go to the IRS website and you put in the information and you'll get your EIN number. It does not cost you anything. I have seen organizations, service providers come to small business owners and charge them for this. So be aware that this is not something that you necessarily have to pay for. Sales tax. Sales tax basically is collected on products you sell. So the general rule of thumb is that if you're selling a physical product, you need to pay sales tax. If you are selling a service, you may or may not need to pay sales tax. So and this varies by state. So I would encourage you to check out your local laws and determine if you need to collect sales tax or not. In Ohio, there's a link that will take you to help you understand that. If you do in Ohio need to collect sales tax, you will need a vendor's license. And if you have a physical location, so for example, I'm in the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center, and if I'm using this as my business address, then I would get my vendor's license through the Franklin County Auditor's Office. If I have a business that goes out and sells in different counties in the state of Ohio, say I'm going to trade shows or farmers markets or different things like that, then I need a transient vendor's license, which can be gotten through the Ohio Business Gateway in Ohio to allow me to collect sales tax in various states or various counties, not states, in Ohio. Okay. And in Ohio, the vendor's license is $25. Okay. If you have questions on those types of things, again, I know that the folks at Noble can assist you on that, or I can assist you on that. Steps for structuring your business. Number one is to select your business structure. Okay, we've talked about that. Next is to get your EIN number from the IRS. Next, open a bank account for your business. Make sure you open an account so that all of the business revenue goes in to the account and all the expenses comes out of the account. The last thing you want to do is mix things up and get accused of commingling funds. And when you most need to have your LLC to protect your personal assets, if you're inadvertently commingling funds, you could get it kicked out, and then everything's up for grabs. So just open an account, get started. Next, if you need to go with vendor's license, get your vendor's license, and then obviously register with the Ohio Department of Taxation. In Ohio, got you a link here to go ahead and check out the Ohio Secretary of State website for information and links on setting up your business in the state of Ohio. All right, we are almost done. So when's the time to launch your business? When you've done all the work, let's launch the business. And you may say, well, of course I'm going to launch the business. I've done all this stuff. Well, a lot of times folks get intimidated. There's this fear that kind of pops up at the end. Is this really something I want to do? You want to push the fear away because you've done the work. And you have mentors and you have support, whether that's with Noble or the SBDC or both or whomever. Take that fear away. And one of the things that I think is really important in terms of taking that fear away is to understand that you're not alone in doing this. You know, I love when Noble talks about you're co-creating. You know, I've talked about I want to start a business and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and what I want to have. Yeah, but you're not doing it by yourself. Okay. God is with you. This is part of God's plan for you. And take advantage of that. Know that you are not alone in launching this business. So go ahead and open. Be confident in what you've done. Be confident in the support that you have, both from organizations and individuals and from God. Okay. So with that, I've got this cool slide I made where we're looking for any ahas or takeaways or questions that you may have. And if there's anybody who has anything, Jeff, you want to jump in? Obviously, you've done a lot of this too. So,
Yeah. Any questions or comments? Or I know the Pittsburgh team is kind of gone through the business plan process too. So you guys have gone through this. So do you guys have any, or anybody have any questions or aha moments or anything you'd like to
especially,
share?
yeah, especially if you've launched a business. I mean, what did you see today that you think is really important, or did you see something that is there something else that you can think of?
Hi, this is Deborah Perry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my product is a actual product. It's not a service. And I appreciate all the information that you provided, because at this point, I'm going through every document that was presented to us and filling it all out and writing it down to be very clear. Is there anything else that one should know when they're selling a household product for consumers? And in my mind, it's a product that anyone in the world could use, but I know that's not true. But I would like to think that. But is there any information other than what you have given that is some good advice for people like me?
Well, I would say number one, I think the information that's being given is really important, regardless of what you're selling, is to really just understand your customer. The more you know about your customer, the more you know about your market, the better off you're going to be, because that allows you, if you have a consumer product, how are you going to get it to them? What's your distribution going to look like? Are you going to sell it online to them? Are you going to go through retailers, or are you going to use distributors? How are you going to get it to them? The way you do that is by understanding, how people buy and what they want. So I think that those are really, really critical components. And obviously, if there's health issues or something else like that, that's a different conversation. But I think that if you're able to do a lot of these types of things, you're going to be much more successful, regardless, selling product, service, or even if it's a nonprofit.
Well, how do I know who my target market is other than in my mind? Is it just doing the surveys and talking to people? Because that was one of our things to do during the training. And I talked to people that I knew, but I'd like to talk to people I don't know.
Right.
And get some idea.
Well, I think what you got to do, you got to start out, you got to build that demographic profile of your ideal customer. You got to build that customer persona. So if you went through the Noble Academy, then you saw a lot of this stuff that Kevin's gone through. So, that's where part of it is a guess. What is the ideal customer? And you build the demographics up there, and then you go out and test it. And, that's where, again, you say, okay, my ideal customer. And you had a great point, because I run a lot of people that it's like everybody in the world can use this. And that may be true. But again, unless you're independently wealthy and you got tons of money to throw at this, you want to say, who is the ideal group? So you should have at least some sense of what the ideal group is to be able to say, ideally, it's probably, I'll just pick 30 to 45. Okay. Because that then allows you to then target that group. And then, who's going to likely use this? Males, females, kids, whatever. Again, starting to put that together. So you want to build that persona. And, I love, some of the things I think Kevin talks about it, that ultimately you should be able to go to a whiteboard and draw your ideal customer. And some of that, let's test it. Go talk to experts like Jeff. What do you think, Jeff? Run this by. Things like that. Once you determine that, then you can go and find out where they are. And then you can start having more dialogues about the psychographics of why they would buy it.
Okay. I also had another question, since since my idea is a product. How do you determine the first batch of what it is that you're producing? Like, how do you know how many to make or how many to have available? Given money being, important, but aside from that, like, I'm thinking, should I make 1,000? Should I make 500? Should I make, 20? I mean, how do you come up with that number?
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've seen work really well is do like a pre-sale launch,
Okay.
right? And then that way you get, you see what the interest is, you get some pre-orders in. Then I'm a big fan of taking that data and then especially if you don't have a whole lot of money up front to, do a whole lot of mass production on this, then you get some upfront costs by doing like a pre-sale. That's how I would do it. Mike, I mean, do you have any other?
No, I think that's a great idea. And the other piece is that, I would just do in batches, So if you haven't done this before and you don't have a really good sense of how many they're going to be able to buy, which you actually should have a better sense of what your sales could be. Let me do a first run batch of 500, just picking a number. Then we do a first run batch of 50, or something like that. And if you're in an invention phase, let's get a prototype where we can start testing and see if people will buy it, things of that nature. So do it in batches. I had a individual came to me. It was a young lady who worked in the hair design. She had a tool that she used for a very specific hair style that she did. And she wanted to get money so she could buy, I don't remember, I want to say like 20,000 units.
Okay.
But she hadn't done any of the other work. So she was going to end up 20,000 of these homes sitting in her club, sitting in her basement. So, if you've done a lot of this pre-work, you can start doing some batches, you can do some smaller batches, and you can go and start to build out from there.
Okay. Okay, that's a good start. And as I start working with my coach, we will narrow that down, but that's a good start. I appreciate you.
Yeah. And don't think you got to do it by yourself. I mean, there's all kinds of resources and support out there that can help you do it to figure this out.
I see Douglas has his hand up.
Yes. How you doing, Mike? Thank you for
Good.
your expertise in all of this and spending time with us. My question is, do I need to have a vendor's license in every place that my product would sell? And transient tax, what exactly is that?
Say that again. What's the last part?
Transient tax? You mentioned something about transient tax.
Well, in Ohio, we have a transient vendor's license, which is basically if you're going to go and sell in different counties. So your primary structure of your business is to go to Union County one weekend and sell, or you're going to go to Morrow County and different things like that. That's just what they call it.
Okay.
It's that transit vendor's license, which allows you to collect sales tax in various counties in the state of Ohio. Now, are you from Ohio or are you in Pennsylvania?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
So again, I don't know the specifics about what the requirements are there. So these are state things. So you'd have to determine probably by going to the Secretary of State's website in Pennsylvania to determine, what their process is from there.
Okay.
And I would go that way. What was your first question? I'm sorry.
About the vendor's license.
Yeah. And again, in Ohio, that's how Ohio does collect sales tax.
Okay.
So in Pennsylvania, they may do something differently.
So the question was, do I need to have a vendor's license to each state that my product would sell?
No,
Okay.
no. And there again, that's when Mike says selling in different counties, that's if you go to a trade show, you go to a farmer's market, and you actually are physically selling things in that county. If you're selling things off a website from your home, you just need that from your county. Okay. Even though you're selling to other states ultimately, or people in other states, you are selling out of your county from your home. You see what I mean? It's
Yes.
when you go into other counties physically and start selling from there is when you need that transient like they have in Ohio.
Okay. Thank you.
Douglas, I want to say one thing to
Yes.
that point too. So let's say you're selling, you're in Pennsylvania and you're selling into on the web and you have a huge business in Arizona.
Mhm.
So different states have different levels of which they would classify you as having standing in that state. So let's say that you're selling into Arizona. That's a big market for you. You're selling a ton of product and service into there. Arizona may require you to pay them sales tax.
Okay.
So it depends on the level. It depends on where you're at. So say that you're in Pennsylvania and you've got a partner that may be in Arizona. You may have standing in both states. Okay. So it's stuff that you want to think about. And again, have folks that you can bounce that stuff in a conversation off of. So just be advised. But Chaz is right generally. But if you're selling a bunch of product into a state, guess what? They're going to want their money.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, so we're running out of time. We'll take one last question and then we'll wrap it up. I see Russell has his hand up and we'll end with this last question.
My question is what is the sites to be able to build a survey? So I can be able to.
Yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, there's different sites you can go and have, you can get, now I have that slide in front of me. There's, you can go into Facebook groups that are using this. You can build a survey and have conversations and do that. You can use, like Survey Monkey. You can build surveys that way. There's actually paid sites that you can pay for people to answer your survey within certain demographics, different things like that. There's a variety of different options there. It just kind of depends on what it is you're wanting to do. But like if you're just wanting to build a survey, I mean, something like a Survey Monkey, that's free of charge. You can build a really cool survey and get good feedback from that. The key is to know who you send it to, right?
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for your questions, and thank you, Mike, for this presentation. And I just want to reiterate too, do not this is so foundational what Mike taught today for any business. And it doesn't surprise me at the beginning when he says so many people just jump over this part and don't even it blows my mind that happened. So take these steps, take them in order. This is so vital to anybody's success, and I just want to thank you, Mike, for even bringing up the psychographics information, because I will let you know from personal experience, the change happened in my business as soon as I thought about psychographics. I was so focused on demographics that I missed the psychographics part, and that was literally the changing point in my business. I was able to speak to my audience in a way that was deep, get them beyond the surface level. It helped with all of my sales copy, website copy. It makes a huge, huge difference. So thank you, Mike, for bringing all that up. And Susie's gonna send out something to you guys that has the links on it and things that were shared today. And I'm gonna take just a brief moment to talk about some upcoming events that we have. So in next forum, we have Doug Frutel, who's going to be talking to us about the continuous improvement mindset. And I'm really excited about this presentation. I think the beginning of last year, I heard somebody say that business is 80% mindset. And once I heard that, like, I was on this journey to continually improve my mindset, and Mike hit it at the end of the presentation when all the fear and the all those emotions coming, and that all has to do with mindset. And so so Doug's gonna kind of talk us through and walk us through how to have that mindset that is set for success, and how to always be improving just in our lives, in our business. And so I'm really excited about that. And then our next live and hybrid event is coming up January 27th. We have Steve Lindsay, who's going to be talking to us. And one thing that Noble's doing this year that I'm also really excited about, it's good to get the tactics, right? It's good to get the, hey, these are the steps you need to do to take, to do this and do that. But what's really, really cool is when we can actually hear people's journeys, where we can hear their story of entrepreneurship, their stories of faith. And so that's what this event's going to be with Steve Lindsay. He owns the Honda dealership here in Ohio. He's a believer. So I'm really excited to kind of hear his journey of faith and his journey of business. So those are our two upcoming events that we have, and hope you all can attend those. And don't forget, we have a website that you can go to that gives all of the events and updates and things like that. We're on LinkedIn. You can find us there. We started a YouTube channel last year, so any of these presentations you'll be able to find on YouTube. And again, if you're not subscribed to the motivational emails that go out 3 times a week, I would recommend you get signed up for those. We're getting a lot of good feedback on those, and there's just ways to motivate you, ways to maybe give you something to think about for the day, about life, about faith, about business. So I would encourage you to check those out. And again, thank everybody for joining us today. We look forward to the next event. Thank you again, Mike, for all that you do, not just for Noble, but just for the city of Columbus and helping entrepreneurs get off the ground. We really appreciate that. So with that note, guys, we love you. We're praying for you, and just reach out if you need anything. All right. Have a good day.
All right. So long.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Mike. Take care,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank
So long,
you.
guys.
Thank you.